Welcome back, dear friends. A joy to see you, as always. It's like having a lovely crowd of interesting people with me in the workshop, not just a dog. Now, exciting new project. I'd like some input from you, please. It's a pretty ridiculous project, well, I'm going to do it, obviously. I've decided, after several people made requests about something like this, to make some sort of coin slot, steampunk style arcade game. I was thinking about pinball, but I've got so little room here that I'm going to make something that fixes onto a wall. Put a coin in and it does something. Now, a few years back I fixed one for a neighbour, which uses a standard design, very clever, simple bits inside, very simple but effective mechanism. It uses gravity. You lift up your coin, you put it in, it releases a lever that releases a big heavy steel ball down to the bottom of the machine, then you fire it up by pulling a spring back, so all the energy comes from you. They don't use any electrical energy at all, which is one of my provisos for this machine. And I've started in completely the wrong place. I haven't really thought about what it's going to do or how you're going to play it, but I want you to have to lift up. Here's a knob. I want the side of the machine for you to have to start off. You put a coin in, that releases this knob, you lift it up, that's what inputs all the energy, and then some game or something that this slowly falls down, moving whilst moving things that interact with a ball bearing and all sorts of things, or a steel ball rather. I found an exciting plumbing fitting. Look at this beautiful plumbing fitting. It's 15mm and it's some sort of slide-on junction thing, joiner, which slides up and down beautifully on 15mm copper pipe without a bearing in sight. I've got these strange double-ended Munson rings which I can use to put, they sent me inadvertently, to put one at the bottom to hold this copper pipe up, a longer bit obviously. And I was thinking, well, I need some way to regulate the speed that this falls down, because obviously if it's all mechanical, it's going to have to work really easy with a minimum of friction. This handle and the associated bits and bobs obviously are going to be really heavy, which is fine. So I've got the potential energy. I know I mentioned this the other day, but it's because my son is studying physics, and daughter in fact, and it's going to slowly drop down. How do you control the speed with some sort of governor? And I thought, it's not cheating really, because I'm not creating, well, I am creating electricity actually, but by short-circuiting a motor you end up creating a very effective brake. I mean, it's the same way as they use with the EVs with regenerative braking. You basically connect a generator to the wheels and that slows them down because they're having to turn movement into electricity. By short-circuiting it, it has the same effect. So I may need a rack or something to get this to turn, and that slows down. So that's the stage we've got to at the moment. I was thinking, ooh, what should we build it from? And with this sort of project that's got absolutely no planning, except in my head so the aliens can't see what I'm doing, I thought I would go with this wood, because I've got a load of it that's just been delivered. This, I think I mentioned before, is what I use for the sides of the net throb with other bits and pieces and bases of the clocks. So I've got a nice lot of that, and I think that would be a really nice width to have something fixed to your wall. So now I've got to decide. It's not bent, never mind. Now I've got to decide. I think I'm just going to make the cabinet, because I just feel like doing some woodwork. Make the cabinet, fix this on the side. Yes. The only sort of gameplay that I've thought of so far is to have the ball, the steel ball, lifting up and then rolling into a little line, some sort of track at the top, that's slowly tilting backwards and forwards like that as the handle falls, and you have to decide by pressing something when you release the ball. So that's going to drop down a bit like one of those old Space Invader computer machines, and then possibly have some carts or something going slowly backwards and forwards underneath that you're trying to drop the ball into, and then a scoring system. Yes, it's just going to be absolutely ridiculous. Please let me know your thoughts if you've got any ideas. It's so nice to be making something again without any plans. So this, completely arbitrary, but this is the size that I want for it. It'll be standing vertically like that, and then the knob can be up here, lifting up here, because I realised if it was on the side, there's not really room with your hand banging against the wall, so it needs to be at the front. Fine. And I can have little twiddly bits to hold the glass in place around the other sides. Now I've come to the stage of having to fix this together. What I thought I'd do this time, dear friends, is use these. Out of focus, oh no, doweling. 8mm doweling pins that have got little slots along them to hold the glue. So you put the glue on and then hammer them home. And I mean they're brilliant, because the fact is I'm going to not have a back on this while I'm working on it. I'm probably not going to have glass in it or plastic until I've finished it. So it's going to be quite weak. It's going to be able to wobble around. Whereas if you have dowel joints in each corner, so sort of two of them, one there, hidden away inside, it gives them a lot of strength, because these are made of hardwood. And another reason for doing it is because I have a special tool. Look at this beautiful thing. This is a dowel jointer. It's got all sorts of settings, and it's got two 8mm drill bits in it that spin together and come through those holes. As you see, you can push that down and the two drill bits come up, and you can accurately set how far out they are, and use these little sprung pins to line up with the edge with this sort of wood anyway. Even got a dust extractor. It's a beautiful thing, and I haven't used it for a long time. Now you can set all the depths and everything else. So I'm just going to have to try and remember all these settings. It could go horribly wrong. Let's hope not. I think I've worked it out, and I've written notes on the front of all of them just to remind me. So I've set it to drill 12mm deep, because I don't obviously want it to go right the way through. And I've set something else. I think I've set that depth there to 7.5, as this wood is 15. And I think that's it. And obviously I'm going to line all of the cuts up with this one, so I'm going to push that one down. And I seem to remember the way you use this is you don't fix this down, you fix the wood down. So I'll start drilling holes. Well, that worked well, except I'm not happy with just having two there. I think I'm just going to line it up with the other little spring thing and have four. It doesn't matter, because it's acting a little bit like a dovetail joint. The more surfaces you have in touch, the better, and they're all going to be glued together, so in effect they'll end up as one piece of wood. I don't know what I was cutting with them in the past, but they are really blunt. You can see how overheated they've got just drilling into the end grain. But luckily I've got two new ones. Look at that, brand new, and they just fix in with an Allen screw. Well, I think I've finally got it sorted out. I think these ones, to make the actual frame, are okay. I'm not sure about that, or this front panel. I swapped it in the end, but I'll give it a go. I'll try and get these together first of all. At least if I get them all wrong, I've got plenty more to practice with. I've got those two angles done. This is how you do. You put glue around the dowel, tap it in. I've made these holes deeper to allow for the 14mm depth of the length of the dowel, with just enough to sticking out, about 13mm. And I'll smear a bit of glue around these top two, and on there, and then tap it all together, and then put clamps on it to hold it all nice and square and everything else. My choice of clamp this very afternoon are belt clamps, which are fantastic. There's a belt, really strong one, that goes round, and you have corner plastic pieces. I've got two of them set up on this, and as you tighten them, you just flip these things up that grip the belt, and then you just tighten them, and it winds them out and puts more and more tension on the two belts. That's those bits done. I'm just clamping it down onto my workbench, so to speak, to make sure it all ends up flat. But the great thing about dowel joints and that dowel jointing machine is that it's perfectly square, at least in one dimension, so that's lovely. We'll let that dry. Once that's set a little bit, I can try and fix that on, which will give it some sort of support to stop it from flipping a bit. Actually, I've decided to use a new piece of wood for that side panel, because the other one I was using had a huge knot in it with splinters, so it wasn't very good anyway. So the thing is, I haven't got a planer thicknesser, so I've just had to use some rigorous sanding action on the sanding machine because it was slightly bowed. You can see how close this is to the centre of the tree. You can see the growth rings, so the middle of the tree would be somewhere over here. And because it's so close, it had bent, it warped. So that's the problem with wood, especially when you haven't got a planer thicknesser. So I've sanded the bowed bit off there and the two bits sticking off there. Now that's ready to glue on. And rather than doing anything else clever Trevor, with my doweling jointer, it doesn't need it. I'm just going to glue it on, butt joint round there. That's absolutely fine. That will be quite strong enough. So I'll get that glued on, and then that can dry. I'll clamp it down, and that can be setting. The other great thing about using dowel jointing and things is that if you want to route it afterwards, you don't have to worry about nail heads and things ruining your beautiful routing bits. You can do whatever you want and nothing's going to get damaged, theoretically. Actually, I think I'll use gravity this time, just to push it all down while the glue dries. That's absolutely fine, because it's difficult to get clamps over reaching across the table. I'll leave that now to set. How exciting to have gone freestyle, off the grid, not having any plans at all. Nothing drawn in the least. I haven't got any sketches around, I'm just making up as I go along, and it's really enjoyable, I have to say. It may all go horribly wrong, but never mind, we'll live and learn. Oh, and of course the other thing is, if I want to make more of these, which hopefully people will see when it's finished, and if it works, think, oh, I'd like one of those, or to build one of them. So I will have to take measurements at some point, but not just yet. Another day, another dollar, another t-shirt. Let me show you what's happened. I've taken all the clamps off, obviously, and now I started thinking, well, mechanisms, perhaps we need another side here, or perhaps we should have another piece here. I was getting all ready to put the little twiddly bits on that will hold the glass. I'm going to have plate glass, by the way, or toughened glass, because with balls flying around it, and plastic will get scratched anyway, so I decided on that. But then I just armed and ahed, round and round in circles. So in the end, I've decided not to add anything, leave this plain as it is, and get this thing to slide up and down. That's the mechanism. Then I'm going to start thinking about the gameplay and all that sort of stuff after I've got that done. So what I'm currently doing, follow my finger, is I'm drilling out and I'm going to tap a M4 hole one side and an M6 hole the other side, because I want it to be strong. So M6 screw is going to be pretty tough, and because it's not got that much depth to go into in the brass fitting, but I found two lovely little bearings that will fit over this and are just smaller than the diameter of this routing bit. So that's fantastic, because then that can poke through, they'll guide it to stop it twisting from side to side, and I can cut the slot with this router cutter. So that's lovely. If you've seen previous videos, you'll know I regularly try and drill holes in things by holding them very close to the drill bit with my fingers. Yes, this time I clamped this, and I'm so pleased I did, because as I got through it did try and snatch up. I've got this lovely little booklet, and it has a list, so I can see that, for example, for an M4 tap you drill it to 3.3, that's the tapping drill. I'm going to have a 6mm tap, and for that you need a 5mm drill, which is a standard size, so that's nice. Really useful for referring to this little booklet. Well, will you look at that, that's what I'm talking about. M4 out one side, I've glued them in as well, M6 the other, so the knob goes on that side, bearings and things go on that side. So now my next job is to get a length of 15mm copper, work out how much room I want at the top and bottom for the Munson rings, and then get it fixed down. Now to decide on the fixing for the copper pipe. I've got these fittings, so I could use something like that, which is quite nice, or there's the Munson rings, the double ones, or single Munson rings. I don't know. I'm going to have a cogitate and possibly a ruminate. I'd like to ask you what you think, but I just want to get on with it, get it done. I've made an executive decision. That's the one I'm going to go with. it's just a little bit too much him tried pushing one of those stop ends on the top. Just too much, whereas that's just really nice and simple. I even forgot I wasn't going to use electricity. I thought, oh, I could have a little fitting on top with a flickering LED. No! Purely mechanical. It really is very exciting. Luckily I found a plumbing fitting that I've turned down a little bit just so it's 20mm, because that's the size of the drill bit I have. And there's just enough proper thread left for this to fix onto. So now I am drilling 2 holes. Let's have a little bit of machine tool action. I will try not to get in the way, although I might. It's little things like working out what size drill bit you have. Oh look, let's do the other one. It just makes it so enjoyable rather than having to struggle. So now I've established that maximum height, no, the minimum height from the top and bottom, so the maximum length, I can get the pipe cut, and now I can work out with this the extent of the slot that I need to route. It did look nice, but these threaded bits and the end caps just too long. I think I need as much room up here as possible, so I've just cut them off so you can go lower and higher, because I think I'm going to have to, I want to be able to get the ball or whatever from the bottom as high up to the top as possible. Time for some routing. There's the bit stuck in there that's going to cut the slot, and I found the easiest way to get all this lined up is to clamp a bit of plywood that's a little bit thicker than there in the right place. That gives me an edge that's going to help line up and make sure the slot's in a straight line. And then I've got a bit of wood at each end, so when I come up here it just touches it and stops. I've got one at the other end. Let's get routing. How annoying. Look at that, everything else perfect, and then when I tried to go this way the wretched hose was catching on here and, oh, so annoying. Never mind, make a feature out of it. I suddenly thought I could use another routing bit just to put a nice little twiddly bit on it, but no, it's not quite so visible. But I can't really go any deeper because I want some surface for those bearings to bear on. So that'll have to do. Get that sanded up. I've done some measurements to work out how far down the bearings want to be, and it's this sort of thing when you're making up as you go along. It's really surprising sometimes just how wrong the distances are. I was just assuming the bearings would be up here, but obviously they need to be down here. So I've built a nice little spacer from a piece of 8mm diameter brass rod that I've just drilled out to 6. And that's lovely. We can get all this fitted together and see whether it will run nicely up and down. It's all fixed together on. You can see the 2 bearings on the spacer. See how easily it moves. Well, that comes up nicely. Oh, lovely. And it looks nice as well. And it's all stained up. I'm trying not to stain it up because obviously I'm going to make all sorts of changes, and it just makes more sense to keep everything unpainted during the meanwhilest. I've just found a piece of ply, horrible ply, and screwed it on the back just so that you can get a better idea, and of its overall dimensions. What an exciting project this is. Completely unplanned. No drawings or anything. Now I'd love it to be a collaborative project. I'd love to hear your ideas, because as I say, I haven't got any. Well, I've got several ideas, but all very, very vague. So please do let me know. If you want to sketch some, they could be emailed to john@steamhead.co.uk. I can't wait. My only thoughts so far, as I mentioned before, is that there needs to be some way of putting a coin in that will then release this, so you can lift it up along with the steel ball. When it reaches the top, the ball is released and play starts, and then this slowly drops down, working all sorts of mechanisms and other things part of the game. When it reaches the bottom, now I've been thinking about this, The ball, I like the idea of the ball being able to be kept in play, a bit like a pinball machine. So if you've got enough skill, you can keep it a certain way so then it rolls down to the bottom, and this is still free to lift it up to continue the next round, so to speak. But if it goes the wrong way and you lose, the ball ends up at the bottom and somehow stops this from being lifted, some sort of ratchet or locking mechanism. And obviously there can be other controls. There could be sort of things you twist on this side, knobs you twist on this side, or pull or push, with things still moving as this slowly goes to the bottom. Please do let me know your thoughts. I can't wait to hear them. This is really exciting. Thanks very much for watching. Hope to see you next time. The end of part 1 of the Steampunk coin arcade machine. Brilliant.